Uh, I'm good. So your linguistics classes are starting rather late. Okay. We have already met a group A. Uh, I think we have had quite a few classes with group A, but we are meeting your group today for the first time. But doesn't
Yes,
matter.
sir.
Yes, doesn't matter. Maybe this is better for you. Linguistics will be discussed just before the exam. Okay, just when you have just a few days to the exam, so you'll remember better, right?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah. So there are altogether 32 people. How many people are attending classes? Do you have?
Around 45 to 50, sir.
45 to 50.
Okay. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes, and please, all of you try to, most of you came before time, which is really good. But if all of you could come on time, if not before time, we wouldn't have to wait, because we don't want some people to miss even a few minutes of the class. As you know, I have 3 classes with you, and Professor Surabhi Bharati has 4 classes, and Dr. Smita has 2 classes with you. So 9 classes altogether in linguistics, and these are not many, so we have to do our best in these classes. We'll try to, we'll be focusing actually on the exams, so that you can do well in the exams. Now our focus is that you get a very good grade in linguistics and also in PGCT, and therefore we will be discussing the kinds of questions that you will be getting in the final exam. Now we have already sent you the model question paper and the worksheets. Okay, and did you look at the model question paper?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is it difficult? Is it difficult? Can you, what grade will you, can you answer? Suppose without attending classes, you have to answer the questions in the model question paper. What grade will you get?
Sir, I think it will be B.
B.
Yes, sir.
Linguistics is a little tricky, sir.
Is nobody getting an A?
So it's
Okay.
difficult.
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
easy. It's not easy.
So if you are getting a B plus without attending classes, I'm sure you will get at least an A and maybe an O and maybe an A plus after you have attended all the classes. Okay.
So while looking at the content, it looks very simple, but when we are actually plunging into it, it looks as if it's an ocean. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, true. But then we will prepare you in such a way that you will happily take the exam, right? And there will be no fear of the exam. Now, before we go on to discuss, as you know, you will be dealing with syntax. And how did you like this block? Syntax, it is block 3 and there are 6 units. Have you read all the units?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so how did you like?
So a little considering and a lot of new things are being taught there. Theta role, external and internal theta role. There are a lot of things which we have not come across previously.
Yes, sir. We were
Yes,
quite
sir.
misunderstood.
They are very interesting, but they are not easy.
Okay, they are not easy, and I'm sure you don't. I mean, theta roles you understand maybe, but maybe you don't like your role as a student when you have to study this. Okay. Now I will ask you something. You have read about syntax and you have at least read 6 units on syntax. Now, why is it called syntax? Have you ever thought about it? Why is it called syntax?
Because it talks about the constituents of a sentence, and it talks about how the words are combined in a sentence.
Okay. Any other answers?
And also it talks about the structure of the sentence.
Yes, right.
Okay. Very good answers. Yeah. Someone else is saying yes.
It gives an outline to the structure formation of a particular type of sentence. I think that's why it's
Sir,
called a syntax.
syntax means sir word order. So we are focusing on the order of the word.
Okay, very good.
Sentences are arranged in a particular order to get meaningful word.
Okay, very good. Now you have said you have nicely talked about syntax and described what really syntax tries to do, but I will give you a slightly different reason why it is called syntax. It is called syntax. Some people say that it is called syntax because it is the tax that you pay for the sins you committed in your past lives. Okay, you may not you may not know but we know that all of you committed some sins in your past life, right? And that
Why
is
not
wh-
studying well?
yeah, that is why you are doing this course, and that is why you have to pay this tax. And as you know that nobody likes to pay tax, and nobody wants to part with money, and since you are paying tax, you don't like this course, right? Because one good thing is that by doing this course you would have paid all the tax for the sins you committed in your past life, so all your sins will be washed away, right? But but if some
Sir,
of you
excellent definition.
if some of you committed more sins, that is, you didn't commit sins only in your past life, but you committed sins in your many past lives, previous past lives, okay? Then you will have to go on to study syntax again. Some of you will probably opt for syntax and in PGDT, and some of you may go on to do research in syntax, and in that case it would mean that you committed sins not only in your immediate past life but in many past lives, okay? And that is why you have to study syntax for so many years. But someone like me who has committed only sins in all his past lives and hasn't done any good thing, and for that reason I have to teach syntax all my life. I have to deal with syntax. Okay, so you know why
Sir, is it so?
you know why I'm teaching syntax. So don't be unhappy. By doing this course, all your sins will be washed away. Okay. Now, with that,
It is good thing, sir. We are learning
Yeah.
so many things.
yeah. So now, with that, we will move on to the first unit. Okay. You must have looked at the question paper, the model paper, as I said, and you must have looked at the worksheet. Did you look at the worksheet? I have sent you one worksheet on syntax.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I hope you have looked at the worksheet and have tried to answer the questions. So what we will do is, as I told you in the beginning, we will focus only on the exam in these 3 classes. So we will tell you, we will discuss the kinds of questions that you are likely to get in the final exam. So the first question that you will be getting is on, as you know, constituent structure. You will be given 3 sentences and you will have to draw trees for each sentence. That is, you have to draw 3 trees, 1 tree for each sentence, then write a set of rules. So I'll talk a little about how to draw trees. All of you know how to draw trees and all of you know how to write rules, but then maybe a little bit of quick practice, and then we will go on to answer the questions in the worksheet, which will really help you in the final exam. So I'm going to make the presentation now in a minute. So, can you see a tree here? Can you see?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, Yes, so the tree says, I know you. You may not know me, but I know you, right? Okay, because, okay, now I'm starting with a very simple sentence. All of you know how to draw a tree, but I thought we'll start with a very simple sentence and move on to some complex sentences and then move on to the worksheet. Now, this I know you, it's a very simple sentence, and here you have this tree, and this is called a tree, and these are called nodes. Okay, NP, VP are the nodes, and these are called sisters. Okay, ox, V is a sister of ox, and NP is a sister of V, and VP is a sister of NP, and and we said that this is the mother node, this is the daughter node, this is the mother node, this is the daughter node. That is what we say, and this is the tree. Okay, and we say that we say that this is a happy family. Do you know why it is a happy family?
Because all are connected to
members
each
are there.
other.
Sorry. Yeah,
All
can you
the
say that?
family members are there, sir.
Yes, all the family members are there, but one thing you might not have noticed is that there are all
They are linked together.
All are
they are linked
connected to
together.
each other.
all are connected to each other, very good, but all are women. There are no men here to create any troubles, right? So you have only mothers and daughters and sisters here, right? And that is why they are happy, right? Men always create trouble. Okay, sorry for my other men, but some okay. So it says, okay, now let us move on to see. So when you get a sentence like this, you give the noun phrase. So this is the noun phrase. Although it is a pronoun, we call it a pronoun, and this is a tense, and then verb, and then the object, which is a noun phrase. Okay, now let's go to a longer sentence. Okay, I know you are intelligent. That was the earlier one was very simple, but this one is a little more longer. I mean, a little longer. So here you have a sentence. How is this different? Now here you have the same subject, and tense is present tense, and the verb is no. But you have a clause here. You are intelligent. This is a finite clause, because this you are intelligent can by itself be a sentence. You can just say you are intelligent. You don't have to say I know. You can say you are intelligent. And
Excuse me, sir. Could you please make it full screen, because this
Full
it
screen,
will
okay.
look better, if possible, please, sir.
No, but then the problem is that it will become too large. This is the largest. You can expand maybe in your mobile. You can enlarge it a little. Okay.
Yes, sir. We can.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine, no problem.
So, yeah. Please enlarge it. Now, what you find is that this is a clause, and when we have a clause within a sentence, we call it an S. Okay. Now, S is for sentence, of course, but S is for a clause also, because a clause also is potentially a sentence. So you can say you are intelligent is a sentence by itself, and therefore we use the symbol S here, and then we say that like any sentence, it has a noun phrase and a verb phrase, and the noun phrase is you, and the verb is auxiliary verb, and intelligent is an adjective phrase, and tense is present, and the verb is be, and the adjective is intelligent. So that is your second sentence. Then let's move on to another sentence. I know that you are intelligent.
Sir, would you please show me that previous?
Yeah, this one. You find that you are intelligent is an S here. Is an S. We call it an S. You are intelligent is an S. But when you move to a slightly different sentence, we say the same thing, but we are saying I know that you are intelligent. I know that you are intelligent. So here, in addition to you are intelligent, as there is that. So when we have that before the clause, we say that it is a complementizer. Why do we call it complementizer? Because it introduces a complement clause, and that is why it is called a complementizer. So when we have a complementizer like that before the S, we call it an S bar. This is called an S bar. You just draw a line above S, and because of this S bar, I couldn't type it. Actually, I had to write it. But so what you know is that when you have a complementizer like that before the subject, then it becomes an S bar. The complementizer need not be that. It can also be if. For example, I wonder. That will not be a nice thing to say, but I can also say, I wonder if you are intelligent. I wonder if you are intelligent. So if I say, I wonder if you are intelligent, that if also will be a complementizer, and the whole thing will be an S bar. I can also say, I wonder whether you are intelligent. I wonder whether you are intelligent. So you are intelligent is an S, and whether will be a comp, so, and that will be an S bar. So what you know is that when you have a clause, that becomes an S, and that will be an S within the S. And then if before the clause you have that, or if, or whether, which we call comp is the short for complementizers, then the whole thing becomes an S bar. So S bar goes into comp and S, and the S again goes into NPVP. Now, not only that, let us look at another sentence. I know who likes you, right? You may not know, but I know who likes you. So if I say I know who likes you, here who likes you? For example, I can say I know the teacher likes you, or I know everybody likes you. So that will be an S. Similarly, if you say I know who likes you, or I know John likes you, or Mary likes you. So that John likes you, or Mary likes you, or the teacher likes you, that will be an S. Similarly, if I say I know who likes you, that will be also an S, but instead of a John or Mary or the teacher, we have a WH phrase. We call this a WH phrase. Why do we call this a WH phrase? Because it begins with the word WH. So the words like who, what, and when, these are called WH phrases. In syntax, we call them WH phrases because they start with WH. Even a word like how, even if it doesn't start with W, it starts with H. Even then we call it a WH phrase because it is similar to this. So if you have a WH phrase as the subject of even if you have a WH phrase as the subject of a clause, it is considered to be an S, because that also behaves like a noun phrase. So we say noun phrase goes into noun, and this is an S. So I know who likes you, you will have NP, VP, and then ox, and then V, and then S. But suppose you go to another sentence, I know who you like. That was I know who likes you, but here I know who you like. So you like somebody, but you haven't told me, but I know it. Okay, sorry. I know who you like. So you like somebody. Can you see? Okay. So I know who likes you, and all right. Okay. I know who likes you. That was an S, but here you have I know who you like. So the clause is actually you like somebody, but this who is before the subject. If we have a WH phrase before the subject, okay, then we say that this is an S bar. This is an S bar. Please turn off your video, all of you. Please, this is an S bar. So why do we say that? Because there is already a subject, and that we say is an NP and a noun. So that is the subject you like. Okay, so that is the clause you like, but who is occurs before the subject, and that is why it is an S bar. This is a little tricky, but you have to remember how are these two sentences different. Compare this one with the other one. Here I say I know who likes you. So who is the subject of the clause? There is no other subject. This embedded clause or complement clause, there is no other subject here. The subject of the clause is who, and that is why we say this is an S. So when the WH phrase is the subject of the clause and there is nothing before that, there is no other WH phrase, then we say that it is an S. But when you already have a subject, you is the subject, and you have a WH phrase before the subject, then it becomes an S bar. So because you like is already an S, you is the subject, and there is a double-edged phrase. And what we do with the double-edged phrase? We put it in the comp position, and there is this slot, and we call it comp, and the whole thing is an S bar. Instead of who also, you can have whom also. I can say, I know whom you like. I know whom you like. Okay? You can have any double-edged phrase here. For example, I can also say, I know what you like. I know you like, maybe you like music, or you like movies. So I know what you like. Okay? I can also say, I know when you met them, or when you met her, or when you met him. So you met him or you met them will be the clause, and before that, if you have when or who or what, then it becomes an S bar. So this you must remember. When do you have an S bar? You must know when you have an S bar. First of all, you have an S bar if there is a complementizer before the subject, like that, if, or whether. Then you have an S bar if you have a double-edged phrase before the subject. So if you have either that, if, or whether before the subject, or you have a double-edged phrase before the subject of the embedded clause, then it becomes an S bar. But if you have a doublet phrase as the subject, this is the, if you have a doublet phrase here, but it is not the before the subject, it is the subject, it itself is the subject, okay, and therefore this is not an S bar, but this one is an S bar because this who is not the subject of this clause. So the big difference between the two is you have to ask this question whether the doublet phrase that I have in this sentence, is it the subject of the clause, or there is a subject like you and it occurs before that, and then you know that it is an S bar. Now is that clear to all of you, my dear friends?
Yes.
Okay.
So one question.
Yes.
Yes, if you have a question, ask now, please. Yes.
So
Yes.
here, if it would have been how, then also the same rule.
Yes. For example, suppose I say, I know how you did that. I know how you passed the exam. I know
Yes.
I know how you cooked, how you cook so well, or something like that. I know how you did that. So you is the subject and you have how here. Okay, then how also will be complementizer. So whenever you have a doublet phrase before the subject, there is a subject, and before that you have a doublet phrase, then it becomes an S bar. So that is very simple. If you have, first of all, if you have that or if or whether before the subject, then it is an S bar. Or the second thing is, if you have a doublet phrase like who, what, when, how, where. I know where she went. I can say I know where she went or where you went. Then you went is the clause, you is the subject, but where will be the comp, and therefore that will be an S bar. So whether it is where, whether, where, or how, or when, or who, or whom, or what, the whole thing becomes an S bar if it occurs before the subject. If it doesn't occur before the subject, but it itself is the subject, like in this, then it is an S. Okay, remember this, don't forget this, because this is very, very crucial and people go wrong here, right? So this is your clue for finding out whether something is an S or an S bar. Now let us look at the worksheet. I think you have already looked at the worksheet. Maybe you have tried to answer the questions in the worksheet. The first question we have three. The first question is about tree diagrams. There are three sentences. Like you will get a similar question in the exam, and there are three sentences, and you have to draw a tree for each sentence. The first sentence is, she had been planning her trip for months. Okay, so now this is a simple sentence. She had been planning her trip for months. I hope you can see it. And so we say she is the subject, and there is no clause within this sentence. How do you know whether there is a clause or not? If there are more than one main verbs, then you know that there is a clause. Now here plan is the only verb here. So there is no other clause within this. This is a simple sentence, as you know. And the subject is she, and then had been planning. If you have already done grammar, have you done grammar and have you read about auxiliary and have you already discussed the things that you get in an auxiliary like tense, perfective, progressive, passive? Have you done that in your grammar?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oh, you are familiar. I actually in grammar I actually wrote that book in that block, the block on the verbal. There is a block on the verbal where we talk about the constituents of an auxiliary. So you know that in an auxiliary we can have only tense or we can have perfective, progressive, passive. Okay. Now here you know how you know that there is perfective, as you know from your grammar class. I think if you have or had or has, then you know you have perfective. Then if you have ing, be plus ing, if there is ing in the verb, then you know that there is progressive. So here we have perfective and the tense is past because it had, and the main verb is plan, and progressive is be plus ing. Planning her trip for months. So her trip, her is the determiner, her trip is the noun, and for months you can make copies of this, whether you take a screenshot or you write it, I don't mind. You can make copies of this for your reference. So this is the tree where you have a noun phrase and a verb phrase. Under the verb phrase we have auxiliary V, NP and PP, right? Now we'll go to the next tree. I wish you had told me about the dance. I wish you had told me about the this can be enlarged a little. Yes, I wish you had told me about the dance. Now here there is a clause, because you know there are two verbs here. One is wish, one is told. One is wish, one is told. So there are two verbs, but which is the main verb? Main verb is wish. How do you know which is the main verb? If you ask a if you ask a yes/no question, then you will know which is the main verb. See, if you ask a yes/no question on this, it will be do I wish? Okay, do I wish you had told me about the dance? So you see that the wish becomes the main verb. Instead of wish, if you have he, then he wishes you had told him or told me about the dance. If it is he, then you will say does he wish? So does means because it is the main verb wishes, and therefore it becomes does. So you know that this is the main verb. So you have the subject here I, then the tense is present, wish is present, and wish you, and then the verb phrase is had told me. So had, as you know, is perfective, so we have past tense and perfective, and the main verb is tell, and the object is me, which is a noun. Then about the dance, okay, about the dance. So and this becomes you had told me becomes an S, because as you can see, you had told me about the dance can be a sentence by itself. It's a clause. So we have ox, V and S. So and there is nothing, there is no that or if or whether before you, and that is why if it is not an S bar. If you had instead of this, if you had I wish that you had told me about the dance, I wish that you had told me about the dance. If you had that here, then that would have become a comp, and the whole thing, it would have become an S bar. But since you don't have that here, you have just you had I wish you had told me about the dance, it becomes an S because you have a subject, and before the subject you don't have that, if, whether or who or anything, so it becomes an S. And about the dance is a preposition phrase, and that is your tree. Okay, then we'll go to the third sentence. Okay, now the third sentence is what? The third sentence is the woman you met in Delhi works in advertising. The woman you met in Delhi works in advertising. Now what is the subject of this clause, this sentence?
The woman you met in Delhi.
Yes, yes. So you see that there are two verbs, met and works. Met and works. So you know that there is a clause. Now which is the main verb? The main verb is works. How do you know works? How do you know that the main verb is works, and why not met? Because make a double-edged question on this. The WH question will be, no sorry, make a yes no question. That is what is a yes no question? The answer of which will be either yes or no. Like, do you like music? The answer will be yes or no. Okay. Did he go to London? The answer will be please mute. Somebody's audio is on. Yeah. Please mute your audio. Yes. Now suppose you make a yes no question. That is the answer. Then the question will be, does the woman you met in Delhi work in advertising? So this is the main verb, and this is not the main verb. This is the verb of an embedded clause. And who works in advertising? The woman you met in Delhi. So the whole thing will come under the noun phrase. This is how you have to know. Sometimes the clause that you will have, it will be part of the subject noun phrase, or it will be part of the verb phrase, or it will be part of the object noun phrase. So you have to check it carefully whether the clause that you have is a part of the subject noun phrase, or part of the direct, is a daughter of the verb phrase, or is a daughter of the object noun phrase. Anything is possible. Now here it is a daughter of the subject noun phrase, because we have the subject is the woman you met in Delhi. So we say it is determiner, the and woman, and then you have the clause you met in Delhi. So you is the subject, and notice that there is no that, if, whether before the subject or any WH phrase. Therefore this is an S, you met in Delhi. Suppose instead of you met in Delhi, you had the woman whom you met in Delhi. The woman whom you met in Delhi. If you had whom here, that whom will become come, and the whole thing will become an S bar. But you don't have whom or who here, and you just have the subject and no WH phrase before it, no that before it. Therefore it is an S, and you meet is the verb here, and past tense in Delhi is a preposition phrase. And then works in advertising, very simple. You have present tense, work is the main verb, in advertising is the preposition phrase. So we have drawn 3 trees, 1 tree for each sentence. Now one thing you must have noticed is that we do not draw any triangles. There are no triangles here. In your lesson, in your blog, there are some triangles, because we are giving you some examples. But when we finally draw trees, you have to go to the word level. That is what I say in the question also. You cannot write VP and put a triangle under that and say that work in advertising. You can't do that. If you do that, you can do that, but that is, you will lose marks. So remember, in the exam, you have to go to the word level, you have to go to the tense level, you have to clearly separate each word from the other word. You cannot write PP and put a triangle and under that in advertising, and without dividing the PP. You have to divide all the constituents until you go to the word level or to the tense level. Because why do we say that? Because if we say that you can draw a triangle, so somebody who is very, very clever amongst yourselves, so that clever person, what he will do is he will write an S and put a big triangle here, right? Big triangle, and write the whole sentence under that. It is correct, because the whole thing is an S, and you can put a triangle and say that the whole sentence is an S, but you are not saying anything more than that. Okay, please mute your audio.
Excuse me, sir, that slide is not visible.
That slide is not visible. Okay. Can you?
It is visible, but it's small.
Yeah. Can you please enlarge it in your mobile or something?
We can zoom it, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir, I got it, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, I can't do anything better. This is the disadvantage of online classes. But maybe, next time when you come, okay, will you mute your audio? You will mute your audio? Yeah. So now what we'll do is, we have already drawn the 3 trees, and if you draw the trees correctly, then in the final exam you will get, how much will you get? For each tree you will get 3 marks. So you would get 9 marks like that. Okay. But the trees have to be correct, right? But for each tree you get 3 marks. Now suppose you make a mistake. you will say, how is it possible not to draw a tree without making mistakes? We are learning first time we are doing it, and how can you say that make everything has to be correct? Okay, suppose you make a mistake, and suppose instead of PP you call it an NP, or you don't divide this, or instead of here instead of S you say it is an S bar or something. What will happen? You will not lose all the marks. Okay, you will not lose all the 3 marks here. Maybe you will lose half a mark. Okay, if you make it an S bar. Okay, now but if you make more mistakes, let us say instead of putting "you met in Delhi" under the subject NP, you put it under the verb VP. So you make 3-4 mistakes. Okay, in that case you will also not lose all the marks. You will probably lose 1 mark and you will get 2 marks. But suppose you make still more mistakes, maybe 8 mistakes or 9 mistakes, then you will probably lose 2 marks and you will get only 1 mark. But suppose you make 20 mistakes here, right? Then what will happen? You will probably get nothing. So don't worry if you make a mistake. After the exam you might think, oh my God, I made a mistake. What will happen now? But nothing will happen. You will lose half a mark or 1 mark maximum. Don't worry. But if you can draw the trees correctly, then you will get 3 out of 3 for each tree and 9 marks out of 9 marks, just like that. And now we'll write the rules. Now how do you write the rules? Writing rules it is a little an intelligent thing to do. So for that you have to look at all the trees and then write a set of rules. Okay, now first of all you go to your first tree. Okay, so we are going to the first tree. Okay, so this was our first tree, and here we had the sentence, she had been planning her trip for months. Okay, and then we write a rule. So the S goes into NP VP. So what we do is we write a set of rules. We say S goes into NP VP. NP VP. All sentences S will go to NP VP. So that also you can write without looking at the trees. But what about the other things? Then what about the NP? So you have written S goes into NP VP. Then let us look at the subject NP. Now the subject NP has an S, has an N here, nothing else. There is a subject NP. Here it has a det and N, determiner and N. And this subject NP has an N. So you have three NPs here, and one of them has a det, and the other two and an N. The other 2 NPs have only an N. So what you do, you write det and N, but you put det in round brackets because you find that it is not there in all the NPs. It is not there in this NP. Det is not there in this NP. Det is there only in this NP, which is her tree. So if it is not there in all the NPs, it is there in one or more than one NPs, but not in all NPs, you put it in round brackets because we say it is optional. Okay, after doing that, you go to the next tree and look for NPs. Okay, so we look for the NPs here. Okay, we look for the NPs here, right? So there are a few NPs here. First of all, this NP. This NP has only an N, so we don't have to change the rule. We have already written N. And this NP has also an N, so we don't have to change the rule. And this NP has determiner and N, and we don't have to change the rule because we have already written determiner, we have already written N. So the rule remains the same. Okay, and then you go to the third tree. Here you look at the NP, the first NP, it has determiner N and S. Determiner N and S. So what you do is you write S after N. You had written determiner, you had written N, but you write S. But you put S in round brackets. Why do you put S in round brackets? Because you find that this S is there only in one NP. If all the NPs in the 3 sentences, in those 3 sentences have S, then only you will not put S in round brackets. Because since only one NP has S, you put S in round brackets. Here also you have an NP, but that has an N. So you find that, so N is already there. So finally, what is our rule for NP? Rule for NP is determiner, because there is determiner in some NPs, but it is not there in all NPs, and therefore it is in round brackets. Then N, because there is an N in every NP, there is no NP which doesn't have an N, so it is not optional, so it is not within round brackets. And then we write S, because there is an S in one NP, there is an S, but it is not there in every NP, and therefore it is in round brackets. So even if you have 5 NPs, let us say, in the 3 trees, and out of 5, 4 of them have det, 4 of them have determinants, but there is just one NP which doesn't have det, even then this will be round brackets. So if it is 1 or more but not all, then it will be round brackets. Only if you have all the NPs, let us say you have 5 NPs in the 3 sentences, and all the 5 NPs, each of them has det, then you will not put in round brackets, because you find that det is compulsory, a mandatory and obligatory constituent of the NP in the given 3 sentences. You are not writing the rules for the English language, you are writing the rules for the 3 sentences you have got. Okay, so you have written the rule for the NP, and now we will write the rule for the VP. Okay, so how do we write the rule for the VP? Because NP has been expanded, this is how I go about it. S goes into NP VP, then NP you expand the NP, and the det doesn't have to be expanded, N doesn't have to be expanded, S has already been expanded. Now you go to the next thing, VP. So what do we have in the VP? We go to the first one. Okay, now this VP has aux, V, NP, PP. 4 things are there: aux, V, NP, PP. So what do we do? We write aux, V, NP, PP. Okay, then we go to the next one. Now the next tree we find yes, this is the next one. Next tree we find it has aux, V and S. Aux, V and S. Actually there are 2 VPs here. One VP is the main VP, and there is another VP here. In the embedded clause there is a VP. So we have aux, VS. Okay, aux, VS here. So what do we do? So we go to our rule. We say, we had said NPPP, then we say S. We write S here because it's not that this S comes after the PP. This S comes instead of NPPP. So after the V, you have either NPPP or S. You have either NP or S. When you have either or, that is, you have alternatives, this or this. Okay, this or this. So you put them, you write one below the other, and you put them in curly brackets. Okay, this is optional, but this is alternatives bracket. So you put S under NPPP, because in the first sentence you had NPPP, but in the second sentence you have an S instead of NPPP, and therefore you put it below NPPP. Then you look at the other VPs. Here under this VP you have aux, V, and PPP. Now you don't make any changes because NPPP you have already written, so there is no change. Okay, then what do? You go to the third tree. In the third tree you have a VP here. Here there is a VP. Okay, so this VP has aux, V, PP. Aux, V, PP. So you had NPPP, you had S. Now you have just PP, aux, V, and then a PP, not NP, just a PP. So you write that, because this is different from this. So you write PP. So what we have so far is NPPP or S or PP, and then you go to the other VP. This was one VP here, but the main VP is there. This VP has aux, V, PP. So we already have written a PP. There is no need to change. So you have already written PP. You don't have to make any changes, no additions, and therefore your rule finally becomes like this. And why do you put them in curly brackets? Because you said that this or this or this. Why can't you put them in round brackets? Let us say instead of curly brackets you put round brackets. It will be wrong, because that will mean that you are saying this is optional. That is, after the V there can be nothing. If you say aux, V, and then round bracket, it will mean that they are optional, like determiner may be there, may not be there. But it's not that PP, one of these has to be there. One of these has to be there. So there is no VP where there is nothing after the V. If you had a VP where there is nothing after the V, then you will put them in round brackets. But in every VP here, either you have this NPPP or an S or a PP. So you put all of them and put them in curly brackets. Is that clear? Right? Okay. Now, now we will write the rule. See, we have expanded VP. Now we will expand the aux. Okay. Now, what do we have in the aux? First thing we have in the aux is that, look at this aux. We have tense, perfective, and progressive. Tense, perfective, and progressive. So what do we write? We write tense, perfective, and progressive. Perfective first and progressive then. After that, then we go to the second one. Here we have tense and perfective, but perfective we have already written, so no need to change. Perfective remains as it is, no need to change. And progressive is optional. We say progressive is optional because progressive is not there in this aux, and therefore if it is not there in one of the auxiliaries, then we put it in round brackets. Okay, then we go to the this one we have looked at, and then here then we go to the this VP. Okay, it is only aux and V, aux and V. So if it is aux and V, we have already said aux and V, there is no perfective. No, sorry, I am sorry. We have looked at the tense here, auxiliary here, it has only tense. So since it has only tense, we put both perfective and progressive within round brackets, because there is at least one auxiliary which has only tense but not this, neither this nor this, and therefore they are optional. Then we go to the last tree, and the last tree has also only tense here, and this has only tense here. So we have already said that tense will be there, so we have tense and then perfective and then progressive. Why perfective and then progressive? Because this is the order in which they occur. Now why are they in optional or round brackets? Because perfective is not there in every auxiliary. Why progressive is in round brackets? Because the progressive is not there in every auxiliary, and therefore they both are in round brackets. But tense is there in every auxiliary. You look at any auxiliary, tense is there, and therefore tense is not put in round brackets. So if it is compulsory, if it is an obligatory constituent, it is not put in any brackets. If it is an optional constituent, it is put in round brackets. If these are alternatives, this or this or this, then you put in curly brackets. Okay. Now what more do we need? We have expanded everything, but only there is a PP here. Okay. In the first one we have already expanded NP, VP, aux, everything expanded. Only PP is there, and PP is P and P, so we write P and P. Then we go to the second one. There is everything is expanded. There is no adjective phrase or anything here. We don't have to talk about adjective phrase. We have again only a PP here, and that PP also is P and NP. So we don't have to change. P and NP will remain. Okay. Then we go to the third one. Here also there is no other constituent, no other constituent that has not been expanded. NP has been expanded, VP has been expanded, aux has been expanded. PP, again we have only P and NP, so we don't change. Now P and NP remain. Now this NP we don't put it in round brackets, or we don't put P in round brackets, because every PP, there are so many PPs in these three sentences, but every PP has a P and NP, and therefore the rule remains P and NP. So this is the final set of rules, and if you write this, you will get 3 out of 3. Okay. So now what you do is I'll stop sharing. Is that clear to you? I hope it is clear to you. Okay.
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yeah. So
Sir, can you please show the final slide once for the rules?
Okay, I'll go back. I'll show it to you. But do you have any other questions, or I can show it to you tomorrow?
I have a question.
Tomorrow I have a class with you at 10 o'clock. All of you, please come before 10, because we don't have enough time, and if you all are there by 10, we can start right at 10, and therefore you will get more time. I can explain more things. So what is your question? If anybody has a question, quickly you can ask.
Yes, sir. Sir, Anamika, I have a question. If there is a sentence like, I would like to know if you will attend the party, so which phrase would I consider to be the noun phrase? I would like to know completely?
I would like to know if you'd. Okay. Now we have not discussed this type of sentence where you have to know, like non-finite kind of thing. Okay, to know. Okay, now if you have, you will not get such sentences. Now I'll tell you something. There are many types of sentences. We have discussed some types of sentences, but there are some types of sentences which we have not discussed. Okay, now I know which types of sentences you have not been discussed. You may not know, but I know. So I'm not going to ask you about them. Okay, because then you will say that the teacher didn't teach us everything, but asked questions about things he had not taught. So anything that has not been discussed in that class or anything that has not been said in the lessons will not, you'll not get it as a question. That we'll discuss in PGDT if you come back for PGDT, and if you opt for linguistics, but that will depend on how many sins you committed in how many lives, right? Okay. Right. Okay. So before the final exam, anytime you suddenly remember, my God, I don't know how to analyze this sentence. What will I do tomorrow in the exam? Don't worry at all. Okay, because that sentence you are not going to get. Any type of sentence which has not been discussed in the classes or in the lessons will not appear in the final exam. That's a promise I can make to you. Okay, so don't worry about such things. And and some good news for you is that you are going to get questions only on trees, only on case assignment, and only on pro, nothing else. So no questions on WH movement, NP movement, etc., because it's not possible to, for you to do all that given such a short time, and therefore you don't have to bother about them. You don't have to bother about the kinds of sentences which have not been discussed, because you are not going to get them. Any other questions?
Sir, trees and pros and what else?
Yeah, case assignment.
Case assignment.
You look at, and no theory questions, only problems, and you have to solve the problems. You look at your worksheet, look at your model question paper. You will get only questions. There are questions only on these three things. There will be 3 questions, and trees will carry 12 marks, 9 for the 3 trees and 3 for the rules. And case assignment will carry 4 marks, and pro will carry 4 marks. So altogether, all problems 12 plus 4 plus 4, 20 marks. Now if you can answer this correctly, every sentence the way we are discussing in the class, you can get 20 out of 20. Okay, you don't have to write any essays, any short stories, any paragraphs, any poems here. You just have to say or draw a tree, or where pro occurs, or how case is assigned. And I'll tell you in the coming classes, 2 classes, how they have to be, those questions have to be attempted. So please go through your worksheet again, try to answer the questions given in the worksheet, and tomorrow please come on time by 10 o'clock, because you have nothing before 10 o'clock. Please log in before 10, and so that we can start right at 10 o'clock. Okay, thank you all.
Right, sir. Right.
Yes,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And see you,
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
Thank you,
and,
sir.
okay, all the best for the day, right?
Quite interesting.